Part 1, The Disappearance at Cavendish Manor, London, in the early weeks of spring, has a particular charm: soft rain on cobblestones, quick laughter from passing carriages, and the faint promise of sunlight returning after a cold winter. I, Captain Hastings, had been enjoying a pleasantly uneventful season, writing small sporting articles for a newspaper and taking the occasional luncheon with friends. That peace, as it so often does in my life with Hercule Poirot, was not meant to last. It was on such a morning that I found Poirot at his breakfast table, delicately slicing a perfectly symmetrical grapefruit. His precise manner with the fruit knife suggested he was enjoying a rare moment of calm. "My friend," he said without looking up, "you will not eat? You are restless." "I'm simply bored," I admitted. "There hasn't been a case in weeks." Poirot raised one eyebrow. "To crave crime is not healthy, Hastings. But perhaps, just perhaps, your wish will be granted." A knock sounded at the apartment door. The timing was so impeccable that I laughed aloud. Poirot only smiled with irritating serenity. Inspector Japp marched in, his coat spattered with morning rain. He looked tired, annoyed, and, most intriguingly, puzzled. "Morning, Poirot." "Hastings." "Bonjour, Inspector. You bring us news, perhaps?" Japp removed his hat and let out a breath. "A big one. And for once, I'll admit it front and center, I need your help." Poirot sat straighter. "Then speak, mon ami. Whose murder disturbs your breakfast?" "No murder, yet," Japp said grimly. "It's a disappearance. And the Yard is already feeling the pressure. Political pressure. Social pressure. The press is howling." "Whose disappearance?" I asked. Japp hesitated, then said, "Evelyn Cavendish." I whistled. Evelyn Cavendish was the darling of London society, an heiress of old money, young, brilliant, and frequently the subject of gossip columns. Wherever she went, intrigue followed. Poirot's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "Tell us everything, if you please." "She vanished last night during a charity gala at Cavendish Manor. One moment she was greeting guests, the next, she was nowhere. Staff searched the gardens, her room, the grounds, nothing. Not a note, not a scream, not a witness. It's as if she evaporated." "Evaporated?" Poirot repeated softly. "No, no. Human beings do not evaporate, Japp. Someone makes them vanish." Japp continued, "The family is panicking. The newspapers will break the story by afternoon. And Lord Adrian Clark, her fiancé, is shouting for a ransom police haven't even received." Poirot stood immediately. "We go at once." Cavendish Manor. The Cavendish estate sat on the outskirts of London, an elegant manor wrapped in mist and early morning quiet. Policemen moved briskly across the grounds, flashlights in hand, searching the hedges and ornamental gardens. Inside, the atmosphere was frantic. Lady Helena Cavendish, Evelyn's stepmother, stood near the hearth wringing her hands. Her pale eyes widened when she saw us. "Monsieur Poirot. Thank heavens. You must find her. You simply must." Poirot bowed courteously. "We will try, madam. But first, calm. Panic blurs the vision." From the corner of the room stepped Lord Adrian Clark, tall, handsome, impeccably dressed, and strangely composed for a man whose future bride had vanished. "Inspector Japp," he said curtly. "Have your men found anything?" "Not yet," Japp replied. "This is Hercule Poirot. He'll be assisting." Clark studied Poirot with an unreadable expression. "If you can find Evelyn, you'll have my gratitude. But let me be perfectly clear, this was a kidnapping. Someone took her. Probably for ransom." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "You state that with great certainty, milord." "Evidence?" Clark stiffened. "It is the only logical conclusion." Poirot smiled faintly. "Logic, yes. But whose logic? Before Clark could respond, a breathless maid entered, the young woman Clara Wells. She looked terrified, her hands twisting nervously in her apron. Monsieur Poirot. I know something about last night. Poirot turned to her at once. Come, mademoiselle. Courage. Tell me. I was in Miss Evelyn's room, helping her prepare for the gala. She seemed troubled. On edge. She told me she felt someone was watching her. Someone dangerous. My heart quickened. Did she say who? The maid swallowed. No, sir. But she mentioned the stranger with dark hair. And then she made me promise not to tell anyone. Poirot's expression sharpened. A stranger at the gala? I didn't see him myself. But Miss Evelyn believed he meant her harm. Adrian Clark scoffed. Nonsense. Evelyn was anxious lately, that's all. Poirot ignored him. Mademoiselle, when did you last see Miss Evelyn? Around 10 o'clock. She left her room and went downstairs. After that was the last time. Poirot murmured, merci, and motioned us toward the staircase. Evelyn's room. Evelyn Cavendish's bedroom was a meticulously arranged sanctuary of soft fabrics, white lilies in vases, and delicate perfumes lined in perfect rows. But there were signs of disturbance, barely noticeable, but telling. Poirot noticed everything. Observe, Hastings, he said quietly. The small things, always the small things. On the dresser lay a perfume bottle, a faint scent still lingering in the air. Violet number 5, I read aloud. Very sweet. It is extremely rare, Poirot said. And beloved by Miss Evelyn, it seems. Near the bed, on the carpet, lay a broken pearl necklace, its white beads scattered like tiny moons. Japp frowned. Struggle? Perhaps, Poirot said softly. Or perhaps it was dropped deliberately. Poirot then walked to the large French window. Outside lay soft earth from the garden beds. Footprints, he murmured. But note the irregularity, Hastings. One set deep, one shallow. Someone jumped, or was carried. And the window was unlocked, I added. Poirot nodded. So we have perfume, pearls, and footprints. All arranged with, how do you English say? A theatrical flourish. You mean, staged? I asked. Poirot lifted one of the pearls delicately. My friend, when a scene is too perfect, it is often constructed. Someone wished us to see a kidnapping. Japp's jaw tightened. Then you think she wasn't taken? Poirot looked out into the grey morning light, his voice quiet. I think, Inspector, that Miss Evelyn Cavendish may have vanished by design, hers, or another's. But one thing is certain, nothing here is what it seems. The first clue. Poirot suddenly bent down near the dresser and retrieved a small, folded slip of paper. What's that? I asked. A note, written in haste. He read it softly. The truth lies beneath the lilies. He pocketed it, eyes gleaming with excitement. Hastings, mon ami, the game begins. The note weighed heavily on Poirot's mind as we left Evelyn's room. I saw him turn it over again and again, staring at the hurried yet elegant handwriting. Beneath the lilies, I murmured. What do you think it means? Poirot gave a small, delicate shrug. There are lilies in the room, yes. But also lilies in the garden. Perhaps lilies in a painting. Or lilies in the symbol of the Cavendish family. The world is full of lilies, Hastings. Patience. Inspector Japp caught up with us in the hallway. We've questioned the guests. No one noticed Evelyn leaving the ballroom. No commotion. No scream. It's like she disappeared into thin air. Poirot shook his head. Non. People do not vanish. They simply take paths others fail to observe. And you think you can observe them? Japp asked. A small, confident smile formed on Poirot's lips. But of course. The suspects assemble. Inspector Japp had already gathered the main guests and residents of Cavendish Manor in the drawing room. The atmosphere inside was tense, a mixture of genuine fear and carefully disguised nerves. Poirot stood before them like a conductor preparing to address an orchestra. Mesdames and messieurs, he began, I will ask questions. I advise honesty. Lies, even small ones, delay justice. The group included, 1. Lord Adrian Clark. Tall, composed, aristocratic. His blue eyes revealed irritation more than worry. 2. Beatrice Cavendish. Evelyn's cousin, sharp-featured, elegant, with an expression that suggested she enjoyed other people's misfortunes. 3. Mr. Jonathan Harris. The American businessman, broad-shouldered, dark-haired, and watching everyone with a guarded expression. 4. Clara Wells. Evelyn's maid, pale and anxious. 5. Lady Helena Cavendish. Evelyn's stepmother, fragile, trembling, theatrical in her grief. Poirot began with Adrian. Adrian Clark. Milord, when did you last see Miss Evelyn? At the gala, Adrian said with controlled impatience. She stepped away for air, I believe. I thought nothing of it. She often needed a moment. A moment? Poirot asked. Was she distressed? Adrian paused. No. Merely tired. Poirot tilted his head. And you did not find it strange she disappeared for more than an hour? I assumed she was resting. Or speaking privately with someone. Speaking with whom? Adrian's jaw tightened. I haven't the faintest idea. Poirot gave a slow nod, but I could tell something in Adrian's tone troubled him. Beatrice Cavendish. Beatrice stepped forward next. She offered Poirot a cool smile. I must say, Monsieur Poirot, this entire situation is simply dreadful. Yes, mademoiselle. Your cousin is missing, after all. Her smile wavered. Of course I'm concerned. Poirot observed her carefully. Where were you last night between 10 and midnight? In the ballroom the entire time, she said confidently. I was dancing with my friends. You may ask anyone. Poirot leaned closer. And was your relationship with Miss Evelyn pleasant? Beatrice stiffened. Naturally. Why wouldn't it be? The hesitation told the truth. Poirot pressed gently. Jealousy is a powerful emotion. Beatrice's face flushed. I was not jealous of her. But her breathing quickened. Japp muttered beside me, struck a nerve, hasn't he? Mr. Jonathan Harris. Poirot turned to the American last. Mr. Harris, your presence at the gala, unexpected, non. Harris folded his arms. Evelyn invited me. We'd been discussing business. What kind of business? A partnership. She wanted to invest in an American venture. Poirot raised a brow. Without the knowledge of her family? Harris hesitated. She liked to make her own decisions. That's all. Poirot's eyes sharpened. And where were you when she vanished? In the corridor near the library. Alone. How convenient. Harris's expression darkened. Are you accusing me of something, monsieur? I accuse no one, Poirot said softly. But I observe. A family's secrets. After the questioning, Lady Helena Cavendish led us privately to her late husband's study. Her movements were nervous, her ring-clad fingers trembling as she opened the door. Monsieur Poirot, there is something I did not say earlier. But you must understand, I feared the scandal. Poirot crossed his arms. Speak freely, madam. Evelyn, my stepdaughter, was planning something drastic. She had been arguing with Adrian. Terrible arguments. About her inheritance. Poirot blinked. Her inheritance? Yes, Lady Helena whispered. Evelyn had discovered irregularities in the Cavendish finances. She suspected someone was stealing from the estate. Japp's head snapped up. Who? I don't know. But Evelyn believed danger was close. She was frightened. Poirot exchanged a long look with me. Merci, madame, he said quietly. This helps more than you know. Poirot's private thoughts. Outside the study, Poirot paused at the top of the staircase, rubbing his temples thoughtfully. This case, Hastings, it is like an onion. Because it makes one cry. Poirot sighed. No, imbecile, because it has layers. Oh. Yes. Layers. He continued, we have jealousy, financial troubles, secret meetings, a mysterious stranger, and false clues. But where is Evelyn in all this? That is the question. Do you believe she left voluntarily? I asked. Poirot's eyes sparkled. I believe someone wishes us to believe she was kidnapped. And when someone tries so hard to push a narrative, I grow suspicious. He stopped suddenly. Come, Hastings. We go to the garden. The lily garden. The Cavendish gardens were vast, blooming with spring flowers. Rows of perfectly maintained lilies filled a beautiful circular section near the greenhouse. The air smelled faintly sweet. Poirot walked among the lilies with an almost sacred contemplation. He knelt, brushing his fingers lightly over the soil. Japp joined us. What are we looking for? A ransom note under a flower pot? Poirot did not answer. Instead, he pointed. There. Do you see? I squinted. Footprints. Leading toward the greenhouse. Poirot shook his head. Not footprints. Footprint. Singular. One deep print. One shallow. Just like beneath Evelyn's window. Poirot whispered, she came this way. Japp frowned. Or someone carried her. Poirot looked up sharply. Or someone wanted us to think so. He moved toward the greenhouse doors. And then he found it, the second clue. A torn piece of silk caught on a thorny stem. Pale lavender, the color Evelyn had worn to the gala. Poirot held it carefully. The lilies have spoken, Hastings. He straightened, eyes shining with certainty. Evelyn was here. And she was in a hurry. Part 2, Secrets of High Society. London's elite circles had always seemed glamorous from afar, balls, charity galas, elegant estates, and whispered gossip behind crystal glasses. But as Hercule Poirot often said, where there is too much polish, Hastings, there is usually a crack beneath. And Cavendish Manor was cracking. Return to London. Poirot insisted we return to our apartment to think. Inspector Japp protested, but Poirot. We've barely scratched the surface. Shouldn't we stay at the manor? Poirot shook his head. Non. To see clearly, one must step back. If we remain there, surrounded by hysteria and lies, our brains become foggy like the London mist. So we left Cavendish Manor and drove back toward the city, Japp muttering the whole way. I glanced at Poirot. Do you think Evelyn is still alive? Poirot looked out the window thoughtfully. Yes. She is alive. I feel it. Because of the clues? I asked. No, Hastings, he replied softly. Because the clues are too convenient. Too arranged. A real kidnapping is messy. This one is tidy. Tidy. I repeated. There were pearls on the floor. Poirot sighed. Yes. And each place to catch the eye. The scene was designed for Inspector Japp, not created by a genuine struggle. He looked straight ahead. I suspect Evelyn Cavendish left that house willingly. A mysterious financial trail. Back at our flat, Poirot pulled out a small leather notebook. Now, Hastings, we investigate two things. Evelyn's finances. And her relationships within high society. But how do we begin? Poirot tapped the notebook. By examining her bank transactions. Jap has already sent me copies. He opened the pages and showed me a list, large transfer to an American bank. Withdrawals in cash, unusual amounts. A purchase at a rare perfume boutique. A payment to a private investigator. I gasped. A private investigator? Evelyn hired someone. Poirot nodded. Voila. Now we understand the fear the maid spoke about. Evelyn believed she was in danger. Could Adrian or Beatrice be involved? Poirot's mustache bristled. Ah, the jealousy. The money trouble. The family secrets. My friend, this case has all the drama of a Shakespeare play. And Harris? I asked. The American? Poirot tapped his pencil. He is involved. But how, that is still a mystery. The perfume clue. Poirot stood suddenly. We go out. Where to? Violet number 5, the perfume Evelyn wore. It is rare. Only 3 shops in London sell it. And if she bought a bottle recently, the shopkeeper may have seen her, or someone else. First perfume shop, Royal Essences. The shop was elegant, decorated in shades of lavender and gold. A perfumer greeted us with a bow. May I assist you, gentlemen? Poirot smiled. We wish to inquire about a fragrance, Violet number 5. The man's face lit up. A beautiful scent. Very exclusive. Has it been purchased recently by Miss Evelyn Cavendish? The shopkeeper blinked. Miss Cavendish? No, monsieur. She hasn't purchased here in months. Poirot exchanged a glance with me. Has anyone else purchased it recently? The shopkeeper hesitated, then said, yes. A man. Tall. Dark hair. Very well dressed. Poirot's eyes sharpened. Could it be this gentleman? He showed a photograph of Jonathan Harris. The perfumer examined it closely. No, not him. Adrian Clark. The perfumer frowned. No. Poirot put away the photos. Someone new, then. A stranger, the perfumer confirmed. Poirot murmured, the dark-haired stranger the maid mentioned. A new suspect. Second perfume shop, L'Iris Noir. This shop, smaller and more exotic, was owned by a French woman named Madame Duval. Poirot greeted her in fluent French, instantly gaining her favor. Madam, has anyone purchased Violet number 5 recently? She nodded. Yes, indeed. A young woman bought it 2 days ago. Poirot's voice softened. Was it Evelyn Cavendish? Madame Duval tilted her head. No, no. The woman was shorter. Brunette. Nervous. She paid in cash. Poirot's expression changed subtly. Did she say anything? Madame Duval lowered her voice. Only that she was buying it for someone who loved the scent. Poirot stood very still. For whom? She did not say. But she mentioned the Cavendish charity gala tonight. Said the perfume was to be worn there. Poirot whispered, so someone planned ahead, and planned well. Return to the flat. Back home, Poirot paced in front of the fireplace. Hastings. Do you not see it? See what? Poirot held up 2 fingers. There are 2 possibilities. Evelyn herself was preparing for an escape. Or someone was preparing to impersonate her. I stared. Impersonate her? But why? Poirot smiled faintly. Because a woman wearing Evelyn's perfume could confuse witnesses. She could walk through corridors and be mistaken for Evelyn. I felt a chill. You think someone pretended to be her during the gala? Poirot pointed at the perfume receipts. A nervous brunette bought Evelyn's perfume for a specific night, the very night Evelyn vanished. So someone wanted Evelyn seen after she disappeared. Poirot snapped his fingers. Exactment. A visit to high society. That evening, we visited the London Athenaeum Club, a place where wealthy gentlemen often gathered. If Evelyn had uncovered financial fraud, someone in the club may have known. Inside, Poirot whispered, "Observe, Hastings. These men, they smile, but behind each smile is ambition, pride, greed." On the far side of the room, Lord Adrian Clark stood speaking with two other aristocrats. When he noticed us, irritation flickered across his face. Poirot approached calmly. "Milord, a word." Adrian sighed. "Poirot, I've had a long day. What do you want now?" Poirot's eyes narrowed. "The truth, milord. About your quarrels with Evelyn." Adrian's expression tightened. "Ah, so Helena told you." Poirot said nothing. Adrian continued reluctantly, "Evelyn misunderstood things. The family finances are strained, yes, but I was trying to help. She believed someone was stealing. She accused, well, let's just say she was mistaken." Poirot stepped closer. "Whom did she accuse?" Adrian looked away. "Beatrice." My heart thumped. Poirot said gently, "And did Beatrice have reason to harm Evelyn?" Adrian exhaled slowly. "Beatrice has always envied her. But she would never." Poirot interrupted quietly. "Jealousy, milord, is the mother of violence." And then came the biggest surprise. Just as we turned to leave, a man entered the club lobby. Tall. Dark-haired. Elegant. Poirot froze. The same description the maid gave. The same type the perfume seller described. Poirot whispered, "Hastings, the dark-haired stranger." The man turned. And our eyes met. He looked straight at Poirot. Then he bolted out of the club. Failing to hide his excitement, Poirot pointed dramatically. "Hastings. After him." Part 3, A trail of perfume and pearls. The night air was sharp and cold as we sprinted out of the Athenaeum Club. The mysterious dark-haired man dashed across the pavement, narrowly missing a passing motorcar. Poirot, not built for running, called out dramatically. "Hastings. Faster. My little grey cells depend on your big British legs." I hurried after the man, dodging startled pedestrians. He veered into a narrow alleyway near Pall Mall. By the time I reached it, the alley was empty, quiet except for the distant hum of London street lamps. "He's gone," I muttered as Poirot caught up, panting heavily. Poirot leaned against the brick wall, breathless. "Mon Dieu, the criminals of London must stop running. It is not dignified." "But why did he flee when he saw us?" I asked. Poirot tapped his temple. "Because he knows we are getting close. Whoever that man is, he plays a role in Evelyn's vanishing. Major or minor, we shall see." He straightened his coat with dignity, as if sprinting through alleys was something he did regularly. "Come, Hastings. The night's adventure is not over." Back at the flat, a new piece of the puzzle. When we returned, a telegram waited at the door. Poirot snatched it up, scanned it, and nodded slowly. "It is from Inspector Japp. He has found something interesting." "What?" Poirot handed me the telegram. It read. "A large pearl found in greenhouse soil. Stop. Matches Evelyn's broken necklace. Stop. No signs of blood or struggle. Stop. Come at once. Stop." I looked at Poirot. So Evelyn was definitely in the greenhouse? Poirot shook his head. "Perhaps. Or perhaps someone wants us to believe she was. The difference, mon ami, is everything. The return to Cavendish Manor. The next morning, we arrived again at Cavendish Manor. The mood inside was even darker than before. Servants whispered in corners, the family looked exhausted, and a heavy tension hung in the air. Japp met us at the door. "Morning, Poirot. We found more clues." "Or more lies," Poirot murmured. Japp ignored the comment. "Follow me." He led us to the greenhouse, where officers were brushing dirt from evidence bags. In one bag lay a pearl, a slender hairpin, a scrap of lavender silk, and a faint smear of violet powder. Poirot examined the items closely. "The pearl matches the necklace," Japp said. Poirot nodded. "Yes. But the necklace broke in Evelyn's room. Why do pearls show up everywhere except where they should logically fall?" Japp exhaled in frustration. "Poirot, must everything be a riddle?" Poirot smiled gently. "In crime, my good Japp, everything is a riddle." He picked up the hairpin. "This is not Evelyn's style. Too plain. She prefers jeweled pins. This is a servant's hairpin." "So Clara?" I asked. "Possibly. Or another woman entirely." Poirot pointed at the violet powder. "And this?" "The makeup of a woman who wishes to resemble someone else." "You think someone disguised themselves as Evelyn?" Japp asked. Poirot looked at him sharply. "I think, Japp, that a ghost, an illusion, walked the halls of the gala that night. One created by someone with intention. Clara Wells, the scared maid. We found Clara in the servants' quarters, folding linens with shaking hands." Poirot approached kindly. "Mademoiselle, we found a hairpin at the greenhouse. Does it belong to you?" She looked at it and shook her head quickly. "No, monsieur. It is not mine." Poirot watched her face carefully. "You are certain?" "Yes. Truly. I hardly ever go to the greenhouse." Poirot stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Clara, if there is anything you fear to say, this is the moment. Lives are at stake." Clara's eyes filled with tears. "I didn't want to get in trouble," she whispered. "But, the night Evelyn disappeared, I saw a woman walking toward the greenhouse." Poirot's eyes brightened. "Who?" Clara shivered. "I don't know who she was. It was too dark. But she wore a lavender dress, like Miss Evelyn's. Yet, she was shorter." "Shorter?" Poirot echoed. Clara nodded. "Yes. And her walk was different. She moved quickly, like she wasn't supposed to be there." Poirot exchanged a triumphant glance with me. "Aha!" He tapped his forehead. "So someone was impersonating Evelyn." Clara continued, voice shaking, and, she was holding something. "What?" The girl swallowed. "A bottle. I think, a perfume bottle." Poirot whispered, "Violet number 5. Beatrice's tension." We next found Beatrice standing by the balcony, staring out at the foggy grounds. She turned sharply when she heard us. "Have you found anything?" she snapped. Poirot folded his hands. "Mademoiselle, where were you between 10 and 11:30 on the night of the gala?" "I told you, I was dancing." Poirot nodded. "Yes. You enjoy dancing. Yet several witnesses say you left the ballroom for nearly 15 minutes. Beatrice's eyes widened. "That's not true." Poirot's voice softened. "It is very true." She hesitated. Her jaw tightened. "I stepped outside for air," she whispered finally. "To the greenhouse?" Poirot asked gently. "No," she nearly shouted. Poirot gave her a long, thoughtful stare. "Mademoiselle, what is it you hide?" A dispute? A secret? Jealousy? Beatrice trembled. I am hiding nothing. But she was lying. I could see it. And so could Poirot. The secret letter. Back in the study, Poirot searched Evelyn's writing desk more thoroughly. Beneath a loose drawer panel, he found something I had missed earlier. A letter. Unopened. Addressed to Evelyn. It read. Do not trust them. Do not stay in the manor after the gala. There is a plan against you. Meet me at the greenhouse at 11. A friend. I felt a chill. Poirot, this is a warning. Poirot nodded. Yes. And it explains why Evelyn, or someone impersonating her, went to the greenhouse. Was this letter from Harris? I asked. Poirot shook his head. Non. Harris is bold, but not secretive. This handwriting, frightened, rushed. Someone inside the house wrote this. Beatrice? I suggested. Poirot hesitated. Possibly. But we must not assume. He closed the letter and looked toward the window with deep concern. Hastings, he said quietly, the trail of perfume and pearls is leading us somewhere very specific. He turned sharply, eyes blazing with realization. Toward a truth the Cavendish family fears more than a scandal. Part 4, the hidden door beneath the manor. Morning light spilled through the tall windows of Cavendish Manor, but it did nothing to warm the tension inside. Servants moved quietly, the family stayed in their rooms, and the atmosphere was heavy with unspoken fear. Poirot, however, was in excellent spirits. Hastings, mon ami, he said as he sipped his hot chocolate, today we descend into darkness. That sounds unpleasant, I muttered. Poirot smirked. The truth, Hastings, is often found in places no one wishes to look. After our discoveries in Evelyn's desk, Poirot insisted we re-examine every inch of the manor grounds, particularly the greenhouse area. He believed the letter's instructions, the pearls, and the mysterious impersonator all pointed to the same place. Someone wanted Evelyn to meet them at the greenhouse, I said as we walked across the dew-covered lawn. Poirot nodded. Yes, but not simply for conversation. For a secret. And that secret, Hastings, is older than the gala, older even than Evelyn's disappearance. The greenhouse, again. Inspector Japp was already there, looking irritated as usual. Poirot. How many times must we go over this place, he grumbled. Poirot ignored the tone. Always, my dear Japp, until it speaks. He walked slowly inside the greenhouse, his steps measured, studying the tiled floor, the benches of orchids, the water cans, the soft mound of soil where the pearl had been found. Poirot crouched and examined the floor once more. Do you notice, Japp, that the earth here is moist, but only in this square? Japp frowned. Gardner watered it, I suppose. Poirot tapped the floor with his cane. Talk, talk, talk. When he struck the square in question, the sound deepened. Hollow. I leaned closer. Poirot, is there something beneath? Exactment. Poirot pressed his hands along the tile edges. He paused at a small metal ring, nearly invisible beneath dried mud. Japp cursed. A trapdoor? Poirot smiled proudly. One that has been opened recently. The trapdoor opens. Japp ordered a constable to help lift the heavy trapdoor. With a groan of metal and stone, it rose, releasing a rush of cold, stale air. A narrow staircase descended into darkness. I swallowed hard. This is rather eerie, Poirot. Courage, Hastings, he said, stepping back. After you. Oh, marvelous, I muttered. Japp followed behind, torch in hand, and Poirot came last, carefully avoiding dust on the steps. The tunnel below was stone, old and damp, stretching deep beneath the manor. Japp's torchlight flickered on the walls, revealing scratches. Smudges of soil. A faint smear of violet makeup. Poirot touched the wall gently. She was here. You mean Evelyn? I asked. Poirot shook his head. No. The impersonator. A secret room. After several minutes of walking, we reached a wooden door. Jap tried the handle. Locked. Poirot raised a brow. You have your tools, Jap. Jap grunted. I'm not a burglar. But he forced the lock anyway, and the door swung open. Inside was a small underground room lit only by Jap's torch. Dust floated in the beam of light. There was almost nothing inside, except for a table with 3 items. A half-burned lavender dress. A broken perfume bottle labeled Violet No. 5. A stack of old letters bound with twine. Poirot exhaled. We have found the dressing room of a ghost. Jap lifted the dress. This is Evelyn's brand. Poirot shook his head immediately. Non. It is a copy. A clever one, made to resemble hers in dim light. And the perfume bottle? I asked. Poirot stepped closer. Empty. Cleaned. Whoever used this scent wore it to impersonate her. It is very distinct. With perfume and a similar dress, a woman could mimic Evelyn in poor lighting. Why? Jap muttered. Poirot opened the bundle of letters. His eyes narrowed. These are not Evelyn's, he whispered. They belong to someone else, someone who lived here many years ago. The letters were addressed to Margaret Cavendish. Jap frowned. Margaret? She's been dead for years. Poirot shook his head slowly. Not dead, Jap. Departed. Cast out. I stared. Cast out. Why? Poirot read a line aloud. They have stolen everything from me, my name, my inheritance, my place. I will return one day. A chill went through me. Poirot, are you saying someone from the Cavendish family tried to reclaim their position by disguising themselves as Evelyn? Poirot's eyes gleamed. I am saying, Hastings, that a woman scorned does not forget. The footsteps above. Suddenly, we heard faint footsteps echoing above, near the greenhouse. Jap raised his torch. Someone's up there. Poirot's face changed instantly. They know we have discovered the room. We must hurry. We left the secret chamber and moved quickly back through the tunnel. As we neared the stairs, Jap signaled his officers to spread out. The trapdoor above creaked. Poirot motioned for silence. We reached the final steps. Jap pushed up the trapdoor carefully, and burst through. I followed, and Poirot stepped out behind us with precision. But the greenhouse was empty. No one. No movement. Just a single object lying on the floor. A freshly dropped pearl. Poirot picked it up delicately. She was here, he whispered. Watching us. You mean Margaret? Or the impostor? I asked. Poirot's expression darkened. A woman desperate enough to live in shadows is capable of anything. He slipped the pearl into his pocket. Hastings, he said quietly, this case is no longer about a missing heiress. What is it about, then? Poirot looked toward the manor, where the windows glowed faintly in the morning sun. It is about a woman who returned from the past, and a family who has tried to hide her ever since. Part 5, The Woman Who Shouldn't Exist. For the rest of the morning, Poirot remained unusually quiet. He walked with his hands clasped behind his back, his brow furrowed, his lips forming the small pout that always meant he was thinking very deeply. I had seen the expression many times over the years, always before something dramatic came to light. Hastings, he finally said, we must speak to Lady Cavendish. The truth now knocks upon her door. I gulped. You think she knows something about Margaret? Poirot looked at me gravely. My friend, she knows everything. Lady Cavendish's confession. We found Lady Cavendish in her private sitting room, pouring tea with trembling hands. Though poised, her eyes were weary, dark hollows of a woman carrying more secrets than she could bear. Poirot bowed politely. "Madam, forgive this intrusion. But we have found something beneath your greenhouse." Her hand froze mid-air. "Beneath the greenhouse?" Poirot nodded gently. "A room. A hidden chamber. With letters." At the word letters, all color drained from Lady Cavendish's face. "No, no, this cannot be," she whispered. "It can," Poirot said, "and it is." She set the teapot down with a soft clink. Her voice trembled. "What have you learned?" Poirot sat across from her, folding his hands neatly. "Madam, who is Margaret Cavendish?" The silence was deep and suffocating. Then, slowly, Lady Cavendish began to speak about the sister who disappeared. "Margaret," she said in a hushed voice, "is my husband's elder sister. She was always difficult, rebellious, unpredictable. From a young age she demanded control, of the estate, of the fortune, of everything." I listened, spellbound, as she continued. "When she turned 21, she believed the inheritance should be hers alone. But her father, my father-in-law, decided otherwise. He amended the will, granting equal portions to both Margaret and the younger brother." "Your husband," Poirot added softly. "Yes." She exhaled shakily. Margaret was furious. She left the manor in rage and swore she would return to reclaim what was stolen. Poirot's eyes shone. "And did she return?" Lady Cavendish nodded. 2 years later. But by then she had fallen into questionable company. She demanded money, blackmailed the family. Eventually, she was sent away with a payment to keep her quiet. She vanished from society. Rumor said she fled to France, then America. Poirot leaned forward. "But she did not vanish, madam. She returned again." Lady Cavendish flinched. Her fingers clenched around her teacup. "I feared this day might come," she whispered. "Margaret always said she would destroy us all. The motive sharpens." Poirot stood and walked slowly to the window. "Madam, why was Evelyn important to her?" Lady Cavendish closed her eyes. "Because the inheritance changed again." "Ah," Poirot breathed. "Continue." "When Evelyn's parents died, we adopted her. She became our legal heir. Everything Margaret once wanted, the lands, the titles, the fortune, all of it would go to Evelyn. And so Evelyn became a target," Poirot said. Lady Cavendish nodded miserably. "Margaret would never allow another young woman to take what she believed was hers." I felt a cold shudder run through me. "So she returned to impersonate Evelyn?" Lady Cavendish whispered, "Yes. Margaret could imitate anyone. She was a performer once. A talented one. She could become anyone she wished to be." Poirot tapped his chin. "Then she knew Evelyn would receive the fortune." "Yes," Lady Cavendish said, "on her 25th birthday, 2 weeks from now." Poirot's eyes flashed. So Margaret's time was running short. Poirot's theory emerges. Poirot began pacing, his voice rising with intensity. "Lady Cavendish, I believe Margaret intended to replace Evelyn, permanently, using disguise and deception. She would appear at key moments as Evelyn, create confusion, and then, make the heiress vanish." Lady Cavendish's breath caught. "You mean, kill her?" Poirot's tone softened. "I do not yet know. But Margaret planned something elaborate. And she left signs, pearls, perfume, a false trail, to mislead us." Japp entered the room just then, his face stern. "Poirot. Reports from the staff, someone matching Evelyn's description was seen near the stables last night." Poirot spun around. "No, Japp. That was Margaret." Lady Cavendish covered her mouth in horror. She's still here, she gasped. Somewhere on the estate. Poirot nodded. Hiding. Watching. Waiting. A new discovery. Japp stepped forward. We found footprints leading into the old West Wing. Lady Cavendish's eyes widened. The West Wing has been closed for years. Poirot collected his hat. Then it is the perfect place for a woman who should not exist. We followed Japp down the long corridor toward the darkened West Wing. The air grew colder, the floorboards creaked, and dust coated every inch. Poirot examined the ground. A single set of footprints, he murmured. We moved deeper, turning corners through abandoned rooms. Then Poirot froze. Ahead of us, in the dim light of a broken window, lay something chilling. A lavender ribbon, torn, perfectly matching the fabric from the underground room. Japp bent down. She was here recently. Poirot picked up the ribbon tenderly. Oh yes, Japp. Margaret is very near. He straightened, eyes gleaming with certainty. And she is not finished yet. Part 6, the lily crypt symbol. The abandoned west wing of Cavendish Manor was cloaked in shadows, the air damp and thick with dust. Each creaking floorboard beneath our feet seemed to echo through the long, empty halls. Poirot moved with precise, deliberate steps, as if he were navigating a chessboard where one wrong move could cost everything. Hastings, he whispered, observe the lilies. I glanced around. Lilies? There are none here. Poirot shook his head slightly. No, no. Look closer. The motif of the lily is everywhere if one knows where to see it. I frowned. I don't follow. He crouched near a crumbling plaster wall and tapped gently. A small section shifted under his fingers. Behind it was a faint engraving, 3 intertwined lilies carved carefully into the stone. Symbol, Poirot explained. The signature of someone who hides secrets. Margaret is clever, Hastings. She leaves marks, but only the discerning will see them. Japp muttered impatiently, symbols. This is a missing person case, not some ancient cult. Poirot ignored him. The lilies guide us. Discovering the underground passage. Following the wall with the engraved lilies, Poirot led us to a heavy wooden door nearly hidden behind a tapestry. The lock was old but not very strong. With a gentle push, the door gave way, revealing a narrow, winding staircase descending into darkness. Underground, Poirot said softly. A tunnel beneath the manor. I peered into the blackness. How far does it go? Poirot's eyes gleamed. Far enough to keep a secret safe. Now, Hastings, courage. Japp lit a torch, and we descended carefully. The stone walls were damp, the air heavy with the smell of earth. Small puddles reflected the flickering light as we walked in silence. Every so often, Poirot stopped, examining faint scuff marks, the crushed petals of lilies pressed into the mud, and tiny flecks of violet powder. Her trail, Poirot murmured. Evelyn, or rather, the woman who walks as Evelyn, is meticulous. I swallowed hard. You mean Margaret? Poirot nodded. Yes. And she wishes to remain unseen until her plan is ready. The secret room. At the end of the passage, the tunnel opened into a small, candlelit chamber. Old boxes, faded paintings, and broken furniture filled the room, but something else caught Poirot's attention immediately, a small table with a fresh set of violet footprints around it, and a purple ribbon, matching Evelyn's dress from the gala, laid deliberately on top. Poirot bent down, examining the footprints carefully. Notice, Hastings, how the right foot is slightly deeper than the left. This indicates someone who carries a small weight. Possibly a bag, or an object of importance. Japp shook his head. This is getting ridiculous. A trail of perfume and ribbons. Footprints in a hidden room. Poirot straightened, eyes blazing. Ah, Japp. That is precisely why we succeed where the police fail. The small, seemingly insignificant details. The lily crypt. Poirot moved to a corner of the room where a stone slab was partially hidden beneath dust and debris. He knelt, brushing away the grime, revealing a carved pattern, 3 intertwined lilies, the same symbol as before. "Voila," he whispered. "The lily crypt." I looked puzzled. "A crypt? You mean, a burial place?" Poirot shook his head. "Not yet. But it is a hiding place. Margaret would never risk being discovered. She chooses locations steeped in symbolism. The lilies are her mark, guiding only the clever." Japp muttered, "So we just open it." Poirot carefully pressed along the edges of the stone slab. Slowly, it moved aside, revealing a narrow staircase spiraling downward into utter darkness. The air that escaped was cool and damp, carrying with it a faint, sweet scent, violets. Poirot inhaled deeply. The scent, Hastings. She leaves it deliberately. The perfume, a signature. She wants to be found by those who know what to look for. I felt a chill run down my spine. And what happens if we go down there? Poirot's eyes sparkled. We discover Margaret's secret. And perhaps, finally, the fate of Evelyn Cavendish. Descending into danger. Torchlight in hand, Japp led the way down the stone staircase. The tunnel was narrow and curved, forcing us to walk single file. Water dripped from the ceiling, and the sound of our footsteps echoed eerily. Halfway down, Poirot stopped suddenly, holding up a hand. "Notice," he whispered, "how the steps are worn in certain places. Someone goes up and down frequently. She has been here very recently. Perhaps today." I shivered. "Do you think Evelyn is still here?" Poirot shook his head slowly. "No. This is Margaret's domain. She uses the young heiress as a symbol, a pawn in her plan. But fear not, Evelyn is alive. She is clever. But Margaret. Margaret is cunning beyond measure." At the bottom of the spiral staircase, the tunnel opened into a cavernous underground chamber. Ancient stone walls, carved lilies, and remnants of old Cavendish furniture filled the space. On a central table lay a half-burned gown, a violet perfume bottle, several letters tied with purple ribbon. Poirot picked up one of the letters and read it aloud. "The time approaches. She must disappear. No one will know but me. The lilies mark the path. Soon the heiress will be mine to control, or she will vanish entirely." He lowered the letter, eyes narrowing. "Mon Dieu. Hastings. The plan is not just to frighten. The plan is, abduction." Japp swore softly. "So we've been chasing ribbons and footprints, and the heiress is in real danger?" Poirot nodded gravely. "Exactly, Japp. And the danger is imminent. The next step." Poirot moved toward a corner where a section of wall seemed different, less worn, newer. He pressed his hand against it and discovered a hidden lever. Pulling it revealed another narrow passageway, just wide enough for one person to squeeze through. "This," Poirot whispered, "is the true heart of Margaret's secret. The final chamber where she plans her move." I felt a sense of dread. "And we just walk in?" Poirot's eyes twinkled. "We must. For if we hesitate, Hastings, time is lost, and Evelyn may pay the price." With that, we stepped into the narrow passageway, torchlight flickering, the walls closing around us, as the scent of lilies and violet perfume grew stronger. The game was reaching its most dangerous stage. Part 7, The Hidden Chamber. The narrow passageway led us deeper beneath Cavendish Manor than I had imagined possible. Each step echoed, bouncing off stone walls slick with moisture. The scent of violets and faint perfume grew stronger, intoxicating in its sweetness, and I began to realize just how meticulously Margaret had orchestrated this entire underground labyrinth. Poirot moved ahead with his usual measured pace, glancing back occasionally to ensure I was following. His eyes, sharp as ever, scanned every crevice, every shadow. I shivered. This place felt alive with secrets. Mon Dieu, Hastings, Poirot whispered, the heart of the matter lies ahead. Prepare yourself. Margaret Cavendish is a master of deception. She expects no one, not even us, to uncover her domain. I swallowed hard. Do you think Evelyn is in here somewhere? Poirot's expression darkened. She is nearby, yes, but remember, Margaret's cunning is beyond ordinary comprehension. One must think as she does to anticipate her actions. The first sign. As we reached a wider section of the tunnel, torchlight revealed faint markings on the walls, small scratches, deliberately placed, that traced a pattern of lilies, curling upward like a vine. Poirot paused, crouched, and traced one with his finger. Notice, Hastings, he murmured, the lilies are guiding us. They mark the path Margaret wishes someone clever enough to follow. Jap muttered, or a trap, right? Poirot shook his head. Ah, non, Jap. A trap is crude. This is art, and crime combined. The lilies are a calling card. And now we follow them to the chamber. A faint sound echoed ahead, a soft shuffle, almost like someone moving furniture. I stiffened. Poirot, I whispered, someone's here. We, he said softly. And that someone knows we are coming. The chamber entrance. At last, the tunnel opened into a circular room. It was dimly lit by a small grate at the top, but the atmosphere was oppressive, thick with the scent of violets and old stone. On the floor were fresh footprints, small, delicate, feminine. Poirot crouched to examine them. See, Hastings. The weight, the size, a woman, careful and light-footed. Exactly the type we are searching for. I glanced around. The room was bare except for a low table in the center. On it lay a broken pearl necklace. A half-burned gown, lavender in color. A small vial of violet perfume. Several letters tied with purple ribbon. Poirot's eyes gleamed as he picked up the letters. Each one is carefully written, Hastings. These are instructions, plans, warnings. Margaret's blueprints for the disappearance. Jap, frowning, picked up the gown. So this proves someone impersonated Evelyn. Poirot nodded. Everything here, pearls, perfume, gown, is a message, a symbol, and a warning. The hidden message. Poirot examined the letters more closely. Each one contained cryptic instructions about times, rooms, and movements within the manor. One, however, was different. He opened it carefully, reading aloud. At midnight, she will be in the lily crypt. Prepare her for the journey. No one must know but me. The heiress will be mine, or vanish. I felt a chill. This confirms it. Evelyn is in danger. Poirot's expression tightened. And Margaret's plan is precise. She leaves no loose ends. We must act quickly. He stood, pacing, and looked toward the shadows in the chamber. Notice, Hastings, the purple ribbon, the gown, the perfume. Each one is a clue. Each one is a marker. Margaret is meticulous, and she expects someone to follow her trail. And now, mon ami, we are on it. A sudden discovery. Poirot's eyes flicked to a section of the wall. It seemed ordinary, but he pressed his hand against it and felt a slight vibration. A door, he murmured. Yes, but not obvious. Margaret would hide her movements well. And she would expect her prey to be clever. He pulled a small lever hidden behind a loose stone. With a grinding sound, the stone shifted, revealing a narrow passageway leading further into darkness. Beyond this, Hastings, Poirot said quietly, lies the chamber where Margaret plans to confront Evelyn, or carry out her plan. Jap swallowed. You're telling me we're about to walk straight into her lair? Poirot's eyes twinkled. Non, Jap, we are about to outwit her. The purple trail. We entered the passageway, torchlight flickering against damp walls. The air was heavier here, filled with the scent of perfume and something else, something metallic. Poirot stopped suddenly, pointing. "See here," he whispered, "the crushed petals. Notice how they form a path. Margaret walks lightly, but she cannot avoid leaving traces." I bent down and followed the petals, which led to a small iron grate embedded in the floor. Beneath it, we could see a faint outline, a sleeping mat, a few personal effects, and a handkerchief embroidered with the initials EC. "Evelyn!" I exclaimed. Poirot nodded. "Yes. She is alive. Margaret has hidden her well, but these are the signs of someone held, not harmed. For now." Japp knelt beside the grate. "We need to open it." Poirot examined the lock carefully. "Patience, Japp. Observe. There is no force here, only cleverness. The lock has a mechanism designed for her to exit, or for someone clever to enter." He pressed a hidden pin and the grate clicked open. Slowly, we lifted it and looked down. Evelyn Cavendish lay inside, unharmed but visibly shaken. Her eyes widened when she saw us. "Captain Hastings." "Monsieur Poirot," she cried softly. "Fear not, Miss Evelyn," Poirot said gently. "You are safe now. But your captor, Margaret, is very near. We must act quickly. A confrontation is imminent." As we helped Evelyn out of the grate, Poirot's eyes scanned the room. Shadows moved in the corner. "There she is," Poirot whispered. "Margaret has been watching. She knows we are close to unraveling her plan." Japp readied his flashlight, and I gripped the handle of a candlestick. Poirot's voice was calm but commanding. "Hastings, Japp, the confrontation begins. Margaret has prepared her theatrics, but she has underestimated the power of the little grey cells." We advanced together, stepping carefully into the chamber. And then we saw her. A tall, slender woman in a lavender gown, hair pinned back elegantly, standing near the center of the room. Her eyes were sharp, calculating. Margaret Cavendish had returned. Poirot straightened, his hands folded neatly behind him. "Madam," he said quietly, "I believe we are about to conclude this unfortunate episode." Margaret smiled coldly, her eyes flickering with both amusement and menace. "And so," she said softly, "you found my trail, my little game. But tell me, Monsieur Poirot, can you solve it before it's too late?" Part 8, The confrontation with Margaret. The lavender-gowned figure in the chamber stood like a statue, her eyes flicking between Poirot, Japp, Hastings, and Evelyn. Silence stretched, broken only by the distant drip of water from the damp stone walls. Every instinct told me we were about to witness something extraordinary. Poirot, calm as always, stepped forward. "Madame Margaret Cavendish," he began, his voice perfectly measured, "you have hidden, deceived, and frightened, but your plan ends tonight." Margaret's lips curved into a cold, sly smile. "Monsieur Poirot, your reputation precedes you. Clever, very clever. You have followed my lilies, my ribbons, my perfume, but tell me, do you know my heart?" Poirot's gaze was unwavering. "No, madam. I do not presume to know hearts. I observe facts, actions, and consequences. Your trail has been meticulous, yet even the most careful plans leave traces. The motive revealed." Margaret moved slowly toward the center of the room, her gown brushing the stone floor. "You may ask why I do this," she said softly, almost conversationally. "I was cast out, forgotten. My family stole from me the inheritance that should have been mine. Evelyn, sweet Evelyn, became the symbol of what was denied to me. And now, at last, I return to claim what is rightfully mine." Poirot's mustache twitched. "And that, madam, justifies terrorizing an innocent young woman?" Margaret's eyes flashed. "Innocent? No. She possesses what should have been mine. The fortune, the title, my family's legacy. All I do is correct an ancient injustice. Japp muttered, ancient injustice? It sounds like murder waiting to happen. Poirot's voice was quiet, precise. And yet, madam, justice is not yours to administer with fear and deception. Margaret's smile faded. She stepped closer, glancing at Evelyn. And now, dear Evelyn, you will see why some secrets must remain hidden. Do you understand? Evelyn shook, but managed a defiant whisper, I will not be your pawn. The lilies and the clues. Poirot moved carefully around the room, gesturing toward the scattered pearls, the perfume, and the lavender gown. Madam, he said, these lilies, these ribbons, these perfume trails, they are your messages. But even messages betray intention. You hope to mislead, but they speak the truth, you are desperate, and your heart is revealed. Margaret's eyes narrowed. You speak in riddles, Poirot. But yes. I am desperate. And clever, too. Can you match me step by step? Poirot's hands folded behind him. Perhaps. But desperation is never clever. And desperation leaves openings. Hastings, Japp, observe carefully. I realized what he meant. Margaret had left subtle signs in her tracks, little weaknesses in her labyrinth. Poirot continued, every footprint, every crushed petal, every trace of perfume, it is not just a trail. It is an invitation for justice to follow. And we have followed it. A dangerous move. Margaret's gaze swept the chamber. You think you have me trapped. But the West Wing, the underground passages, the secret rooms, these are my kingdom. One false step, and you may regret following me. Poirot's eyes sparkled. A kingdom built on shadows, madam. And shadows cannot withstand the light of truth. Margaret laughed softly, almost musically, and then stepped toward a loose stone in the wall. Her hand moved quickly, as if to press a hidden mechanism. Japp shouted, stop her. Poirot leapt forward, but Margaret was fast. The stone shifted, revealing a small opening, a secondary escape route. She plans to flee. I exclaimed. Poirot raised a hand. Non, Hastings. Observe carefully. The escape is deliberate, yes, but it is also predictable. Watch the pattern, the rhythm, and anticipate her. Evelyn's courage. While Poirot analyzed Margaret's movements, Evelyn stepped forward, trembling but determined. You cannot do this, Margaret, she said firmly. What you are planning is wrong. You cannot take my place, my family, my life. Margaret's eyes widened slightly. Bold, for one so young. But courage alone does not stop destiny. Poirot smiled faintly. Courage is one thing. Strategy is another, madam. And courage guided by intelligence, this is the combination that saves lives. Evelyn took a deep breath and nodded to Poirot. He inclined his head ever so slightly, signaling a plan. Poirot's strategy. Poirot stepped toward Margaret slowly. Madam, if you truly wish to claim your inheritance, you must confront it in daylight, openly, not through fear, deception, and terror. Margaret sneered. And what will you do if I refuse? Poirot's voice was soft, but commanding. Then you will find, madam, that the little grey cells are not so easily fooled. Your plan relies on shadows, confusion, and misdirection. But each misstep, each trace, each false trail you leave brings us closer to the truth. Margaret froze, realizing that Poirot had anticipated her every move. The beads of her plan, the perfumes, the ribbons, they had all been followed, decoded, interpreted. Poirot continued, now, madam, the question is not whether you are clever, but whether your cleverness can overcome justice. The tipping point. Margaret's hand twitched again toward the escape lever. Poirot's eyes flicked to the subtle rhythm of her movements, and he whispered to Japp. On my signal, Hastings, you and Japp block the exit. Evelyn, stay here and remain calm. I nodded, heart racing. Japp positioned himself near the secondary passageway. Poirot advanced deliberately, keeping Margaret's focus on him. Suddenly, Poirot paused. Now. Japp lunged, grabbing the lever before Margaret could escape. She spun around, eyes blazing, realizing her plan had been anticipated. Poirot stepped close. Madam, your kingdom of shadows is crumbling. There is no route left but confession and truth. Margaret's shoulders slumped slightly. Her eyes flickered with both anger and a hint of admiration. You have followed me perfectly, she said softly. Clever, monsieur, very clever. Poirot's mustache twitched faintly. Merci. But cleverness alone does not justify your actions. And now, madam, you must answer for them. Part 9, Margaret's Confession and Evelyn's Rescue. The chamber was tense. Margaret's lavender gown brushed the cold stone floor, and her eyes darted between Poirot, Japp, Hastings, and Evelyn. She seemed simultaneously defiant and weary, the weight of her plan pressing visibly upon her shoulders. Poirot stepped forward, folding his hands calmly behind his back. Madam, he said, the little grey cells have followed your trail from the greenhouse to the lily crypt, through the underground tunnels, and finally to this chamber. Now, at last, we understand. Margaret's lips quivered slightly. Understand? You think you understand my heart, my suffering? My life? You know nothing. Poirot's gaze was steady. I know actions, madam. And your actions have endangered an innocent young woman. Evelyn Cavendish. At the mention of Evelyn's name, Margaret's eyes flickered with emotion, a dangerous mixture of regret and fury. Yes, she admitted softly, almost to herself. I took her, because she had what should have been mine. The inheritance, the titles, the life I was denied. I followed her every step, imitated her. I created confusion so no one would suspect me. But it was never meant to harm her. Only to frighten her, to make her see what I suffered. Poirot nodded slowly. And yet, madam, fear is a cruel teacher. It does not enlighten, it destroys. Margaret's hands trembled slightly as she looked toward Evelyn, who was standing nearby, pale but defiant. I never wished her harm, Margaret whispered. I only wanted my recognition, my place in the family. They erased me, and I could not forgive them. Poirot explains the plan. Poirot's expression softened as he addressed everyone. Evelyn, do not fear. Margaret's intentions, though misguided, have not led to injury. And Margaret, though clever and devious, is now discovered. Your plans relied on shadows, deception, and disguises. But we have followed each subtle mark, the pearls, the perfume, the ribbons, the footprints, all pointed to the truth. Margaret's shoulders slumped. And you saw it all. You traced everything I did. Poirot nodded. Yes, madam. Every detail. But the most important aspect of your plan, the one you overlooked, was mercy and foresight. You underestimated the intelligence of those who seek truth. Evelyn, her voice trembling but firm, spoke. So it was you, all along. Margaret. All this fear, all the mystery, it was to frighten me, to take what was mine. Margaret met her gaze, a mixture of sadness and determination. Yes. But not to destroy you. Only to remind the family of me, of what I was denied. The rescue. Poirot turned to Japp and Hastings. We must ensure Evelyn is safely returned to her proper place. Margaret's underground passages are secure, but they are not fortresses. The heiress can leave unscathed. Japp led the way, clearing the tunnels and carefully checking for hidden traps. Margaret, surprisingly compliant, allowed us to guide Evelyn out of the secret chamber. Her expression was unreadable, a mixture of relief and resignation. As we emerged from the tunnels into the morning light of Cavendish Manor, Evelyn took a deep breath, smiling faintly. I thought I would never see daylight again. Poirot's eyes twinkled. Mon Dieu, Evelyn, courage has brought you back. And intelligence, patience, and observation have ensured your safety. Margaret remained behind, escorted by Japp. I suppose, this is the end, she whispered. Poirot nodded solemnly. Oui, madame. For now, the shadows have given way to light. But remember, actions have consequences. Justice, tempered with understanding, must prevail. Margaret's final words. Margaret looked toward Evelyn one last time. I am sorry. Perhaps I went too far. But I only wish to reclaim what was mine, what should have been mine from the start. Evelyn's expression softened slightly. I understand the pain, Margaret. But you cannot take another's life or happiness for your own grievances. There is another way. Margaret nodded faintly. Yes, perhaps. Perhaps one day, I will find it. Poirot said quietly, the important thing, Evelyn, is that you are safe. And Margaret, perhaps in time, she may find redemption. The family reunion. Back inside Cavendish Manor, the family gathered. Evelyn, exhausted but relieved, embraced Lady Cavendish, who wept softly. Beatrice, Adrian, and the rest of the household looked on in awe at the resolution of the long mystery. Poirot addressed the family calmly. What we have learned is this: deception, fear, and shadows may hide the truth, but the careful observation of details reveals everything. Pearls, perfume, footprints, and ribbons, all spoke to the clever observer. Evelyn's safety was ensured by vigilance and understanding, not by force alone. Evelyn turned to Poirot. Thank you, Monsieur Poirot. I do not know what I would have done without you. Poirot smiled, his eyes twinkling. Madam, courage and intelligence walk hand in hand. You possessed both. I merely followed the trail. Japp muttered, and nearly gave me a heart attack doing it. Poirot patted him on the shoulder. Ah, Inspector, the world of crime is a serious business. But sometimes, it is also an adventure. Part 10, Resolution and Justice. The morning sun streamed through the tall windows of Cavendish Manor, bathing the grand halls in a warm glow. The events of the past few days seemed almost unreal now: shadows of fear, hidden tunnels, pearls, perfume, and the terrifying presence of Margaret Cavendish. Yet, the crisis had passed. Evelyn was safe, and the web of deception had been unraveled by the ever-astute Hercule Poirot. Poirot, standing calmly in the grand drawing-room, addressed the assembled family and household staff. His posture was impeccable, his mustache twitching with satisfaction. Mess Amos, he began, what we have experienced is a lesson in the consequences of secrecy and the power of observation. Margaret Cavendish, though wrong in her methods, was driven by a sense of injustice. But remember, no grievance justifies endangering another life. Lady Cavendish, her face pale but relieved, stepped forward. Hercule, how can we ever thank you enough? Poirot smiled faintly. The safety of Miss Evelyn is thanks to the courage of many and the careful attention to the smallest details. Margaret's fate. Margaret, now formally in the custody of Inspector Japp, had been calm throughout the morning. She had confessed fully to her elaborate plan, the impersonation of Evelyn, the use of perfume, pearls, and ribbons as misdirection, and the creation of the secret underground chambers. Poirot explained to the family, Margaret's actions, though misguided, were premeditated. She will face the law, but one hopes that justice may be tempered with understanding. She acted from a place of resentment and longing, not outright malice. I sighed, reflecting on the past day's events. And yet, Hercule, it was your little grey cells that guided us through all of it. Poirot's smile was faint but satisfied. Yes, Hastings. But courage, attention, and heart, these are necessary companions. The mind alone cannot solve a human puzzle. One must observe the world, and people, with compassion and clarity. The heir is safe. Evelyn approached Poirot, holding a small porcelain figurine, a gift of gratitude. "Thank you, Monsieur Poirot," she said softly. "For everything. I can finally feel safe, and free." Poirot accepted the gift graciously. "Merci, mademoiselle. Remember, safety is born not from hiding, but from understanding. And courage, always courage, will guide you in the future." Evelyn smiled, and for the first time since the gala, the house seemed truly at peace. A quiet departure. With the mystery resolved, Poirot prepared to leave Cavendish Manor. Jap, Hastings, and I accompanied him to the carriage. "Another case concluded, mon ami," I said, watching him settle into the seat. Poirot's eyes twinkled as he looked back at the manor. "Oui, Hastings. Another lesson learned, another shadow illuminated. And yet, there will always be more puzzles, more hearts to understand, more minds to challenge. That is the nature of life and of crime." As the carriage moved away from Cavendish Manor, the sun rose higher in the sky, bathing the estate in warmth. The house that had once been a labyrinth of secrets, danger, and fear now stood as a symbol of restored order, courage, and understanding. Evelyn waved from the balcony, her smile full of hope and relief. Poirot waved back, his mission complete, his little grey cells satisfied once again. The end. Summary of resolution. Evelyn Cavendish is safe and restored to her rightful position. Margaret Cavendish is captured and will face justice, though with a chance for reflection and redemption. The Cavendish family heals and regains order in the household. Poirot demonstrates the importance of observation, courage, and compassion in solving human mysteries. The Vanishing Heiress mystery concludes with justice, insight, and restored peace to Cavendish Manor.